The Japan National Championships were this past weekend. And guys, these teams that come out of the Japan Championships are historically wild. And from the little that I have seen this year, they are once again just as wild. Now, quickly, for those of you that may not know, the Japan National Championships are the biggest qualification tournament for the Japan scene, and basically this is how they qualify for Worlds. There's a few preliminary tournaments that they have to use to qualify for this event, and then this event is their Worlds qualification tournament. It is cutthroat, it is insane, and to make it even weirder, it is a double elimination, best of one closed team sheet bracket until top 8. After top 8, it is best of 3. Obviously, there's a few minor differences once they get to the best of 3. It's best of 3 open team sheets with the natures as well. So, like, if you need to worry if your Miraidon is speed-tatting a Miraidon, well, you might see that you're timid, and you can see that they are modest. So you now know, both players know, that maybe your Miraidon is just faster, right? However, getting to that top 8 point is absolutely insane. So the teams that come out of this are wild. What we're going to do is we're going to look at them today. We're going to kind of go over them. We're going to analyze them and give you kind of like a live reaction. Hence the webcam, because I'm sure I'm going to make some wild faces as I'm looking at these teams, okay? And we're just going to start off strong here. We'll probably look at around the top 16 or so. I don't want to go forever. I'll leave the full victory load link for you guys to check out down below if you guys want to follow along or check it out on your own. Feel free to do that. But let's jump into this. Obviously, the winning team of the tournament is going to be Terrapagos. And now, normally, you know, if I was looking at this and I saw this on like an American regional, I would be like, this is pretty standard, right? You know, you've got the AV Iron Hands, your Booster Energy, Taunt, Fluttermane. It has Trick Room apparently, which is kind of cool instead of Protect. Sash, Urshifu, pretty normal. Everything's normal, right? And this one I kind of know a little about because it did win the event. That is a rock polish Terrapagos, guys. So they are trying to, instead of saying we're going to Calm Mind, we are Power Herb Meteor Beam to get our special attack boosted. We're going to be able to try and remove Incineroars with that Meteor Beam. And then we are also going to be going Rock Polish to allow ourselves to go that much faster. Now, guys, this is wild, okay? This is the point we're talking about here. This is what I mean when I said teams are going to be wild. Why is it rock polish? No one has seen this before. This is absolutely insane, but it's a really cool tech because this is what you get when you play closed sheets best of one for one tournament out of the entire year, right? These are the types of things you get, and this is really, really cool to see. Obviously, I was going to say it's Terrastellar, but it has to be. It's a Terrapagos, right? And just the rock polish. Imagine playing again a game in like round 2 or 3 of a tournament, and you're just sitting there and you're like, oh, Terrapagos, oh, it's Meteor Beam, that's cool, right? And it's like, it's fine, I'm just saving my Urshifu in the back, I'll be faster than it later. Next thing you know, it clicks Rock Polish. What are you going to do? It is best of one. You don't get a chance to go, oh, I just won't let that happen in game 2 or 3. It is best of one. You are getting absolutely cooked by the fact that this Terrapagos is just faster than you now. And it's techs like these that are really, really cool to see, and I'm curious to see as well if any of these lean in towards the North American metagame, especially with NAIC coming up this weekend. It's incredibly cool. Sometimes we have teams, and I remember, I believe it was 2019, we had the winning team was Solgaleo Rayquaza, okay? And I remember being in the hotel room the Friday night before, or the Thursday night in this case, before NAIC, and I was saying, my team gets absolutely stomped by Solgaleo Rayquaza coming out of the Japanese National Championships. If somebody actually brings Solgaleo Rayquaza and I play it, I am losing. So me and my team building partner spent about, like, I don't know, maybe a half an hour trying to figure out what we were going to do. Thankfully, I didn't happen to play any of them, but I know there were a few of them there. So I'm curious to see if any of these cool techs transition into the North American International Championship teams at all, because there's some cool ideas here, right? Like, obviously, Trick Room on Fluttermane. Obviously, you do like having Protect, but I think if you can pick between maybe a Trick Room and a Taunt, that's a cool tech. Or, you know, pick between Trick Room or Taunt and have Protect. Those are some cool techs that could come into play, right? Trick Room Fluttermane has seen usage in the past. And I think for the most part, this team is fairly standard. Let me get out of the way of the Amoonguss here. But yeah, it's a pretty standard Amoonguss, just your Pollen Puff stuff, right? Nothing completely wild here. Really, the biggest thing I needed to talk about was like the Trick Room, no Protect Fluttermane, and the Rock Polish here. That one was wild. All right. Team 2 here I haven't seen, but I already see an Iron Valiant, and, you know, why is my head in the way of the Iron Valiant? Why? Okay, Life Orb Raging Bolt, very, very aggressive. Okay, this needs to be talked about. Assault Vest Calyrex with Seed Bomb. Okay, now, I know a lot of people were crazy. They're going crazy. They're like, yo, the Calyrex text, the Calyrex items in this format, in this tournament were insane. And there's a reason for that. Incineroar in closed team sheets best of 1 is a lot less valuable. There's a lot less Incineroar going around. In fact, I don't even think there were any in the top 8, right? So I don't even think any of the Incineroars actually advanced. So you don't need to have your clear amulet anymore. You can do a lot without necessarily having a clear amulet. And remember, back in the day, we didn't have a clear amulet anyways, right? So we were used to just cycling around Intimidates, right? So this team is probably a little bit more standardish outside of that Iron Valiant. We'll get into that in a second. But, you know, Life Orb Raging Bolt, obviously a little bit more aggressive on the Raging Bolt side, whereas you normally get the Calyrex with the clear amulet and the AVs available for Bolt. Overall, still very, very cool. Right, wait, that's Crunch as well? Why is there Crunch? I didn't even notice the Crunch. Wait, what said? There's no Trick Room. Guys, there's no Trick Room on the team. My brain is broken. What? I just realized that there is no Trick Room set around the team. My brain is so broken right now. Okay? My brain is so broken. Anyways, Rock Pond. Like, you look at this team, I'm thinking this is going to be follow me with the Rock Pond, and either Valiant or Calyrex is setting up Trick Room. And then there just isn't Trick Room. So this begs the question of, with Tailwind on the Pelipper, how fast is this Calyrex? Right? How fast are we looking at this Calyrex? Does it outpace Calyrex Shadow in Tailwind? Because if you run max speed Calyrex Ice, you can outpace Cali Shadow in Tailwind. So I can't help but wonder if that is something they were opting for. They also have techs like Icy Wind on the Iron Valiant, right? So I'm assuming you can go booster speed, you go Icy Wind into having Ogerpon and Urshifu both outpacing that Calyrex Shadow, right? And it's cool techs like this. Like, why is there no Trick Room? And this works in best of 1. Right, this works in best of 1 closed team sheets, and more specifically the closed team sheet part. And I'm not saying it's bad in open team sheets either, but I think in open team sheets you probably want to run a little bit more standard Calyrex. You can still go fast Calyrex, right, and just have a Trick Room option to make them think at the very least, hey, I might set Trick Room, right? But in closed team sheets, there's no reason for it. They are just sending it, and if they are indeed faster than Calyrex Shadow, obviously I'm making a few assumptions here, but Tailwind into Crunch just to remove a Cali Shadow. Or if I have Tailwind up and they don't anymore, and they just don't think my Calyrex is going to be faster, because at the base of this, like I said, it looks like a Trick Room team. I'm expecting this to be a Trick Room team. So this is actually insanely wild, right? AV Calyrex Ice is something that would be amazing in this metagame, like in the North American scene, if Clear Amulet was not required. If Incineroar wasn't a 40% usage mod, Clear Amulet Cali Ice would... Sorry. Clear Amulet Cali Ice wouldn't be as required, and you get to do cool things like this. So seeing Assault Vest Cali Ice is really, really cool. Covert Cloak Pelipper as well, in case they try to like fake it out, right? There's a lot of cool techs on these teams. Now, this third place team, I know, okay? And I can promise you, you guys are in for a roller coaster, okay? This is Tornadus with Snowscape as the weather. This is Terra Ice, Covert Cloak Blizzard Kyogre. Okay, this team is absolutely insane. I watched this happen live in call with a few of my friends on the day 1 stream, right? And it was against the Power Herb Archelodon. So what happened was Tornadus Kyogre led, Rain went onto the board, right? They led something plus Archelodon. And it was like the wildest sequence of events, because what happened was the Tornadus clicked Snowscape as the Archelodon decides to load up the, what's it called? The, my brain is broken, guys. The Electro Shot, okay? So Tornadus clicks Snowscape as Archelodon clicks Electro Shot. So Archelodon starts clicking Electro Shot, and it's like, oh no, he's going to be trapped. It's not in rain anymore. But then it's Power Herb, and it goes to connect anyways, connects into the Kyogre, does like 90%, doesn't even get the KO anymore. Kyogre now goes Blizzard in the rain, sorry, in the snow, and actually obviously double connects because it's in the snow. It was a wild turn, okay? The turn was just absolutely insane. If I can find the footage, I'll leave the clip in here. But like, absolutely wild turn, and this is the only reason I know about this, but Like, the rest of the team doesn't get any less crazy. It is a Life Orb Ice Shard Shenpao with an Adamant nature. Now, obviously, Adamant Jolly, that's a decision you have to make anyways. That's not too wild. But overall, Sucker Punch, Throat Chop, having both the dark moves, no Sacred Sword. You have an Assault Vest Entei with Trailblaze with the grassy terrain. You also now have Swords Dance, no Fake Out, Miracle Seed, Terra Normal, Rillaboom, along with probably the most basic thing on the team, which is a, I gotta remember which way to lean, which is a Terra Steel Water Urshifu, right? Like, the Urshifu Terra Steel is the most basic thing on the team. Everything else is insane, right? Snowscape Torn, you know, Terra Ice Blizzard, Covert Cloak Kyogre. Like, what is happening? This is wild, especially with a Shenpao. Why do I need my ice coverage? Either way, it worked. It got them third in the event. And honestly, this was really one of the teams I hadn't really fully looked at yet. But this team is insane. Oh, a Miraidon team. Okay, Miraidon. That's got to be normal, right? There's going to be some normal things here, right? Okay. Grass Knot, Moonblast, Whimsicott. So they've decided to drop Encore for a more offensive grass coverage. And I think that's a pretty cool tech. I think that's actually something that could definitely be seen even in the North American scene right now. Obviously, I think it's one of those ones where kind of everybody expects Protect, but no one really expects Grass Knot, so that's probably why the tech is there, right? But I'm not going to speak on that. But either way, cool. I could definitely see it being brought into this meta. Choice Specs Miraidon, you get to see a little bit more of a dialed back Miraidon. Normally, we see a lot of the Terra Electric and just a massive damage. They opted for Terra Fairy and are using Dazzling Gleam as their spread coverage, which honestly is pretty strong, right? Because we don't have a lot of fairies in the format. And when Miraidon is forced to have its spread damage be discharged and hit its partners, it's really, really rough. But when you're able to get Dazzling Gleam and you can go Terra Fairy, you now no longer have to worry about hitting your partner, so you don't need to protect your partner. You don't need to worry about making sure you still have a ground type on the field, right? And it's a very cool team, right? We got to see a Volcarona here do well, and Volcarona is very, very strong into the likes of Zacian, into the likes of Zamazenta, right? Obviously, I talked about Volcarona in my underrated picks video that went out last week sometime. And, you know, this is about what I'm expecting. You know, just that nice, bulky support Volcarona. You got the Redirection, you got the Will-O-Wisp, and then you got your Flamethrower if you do need to do damage. And you either go Flamethrower or Fiery Dance here, whichever one you really choose. The Flamethrower is more likely to be a two-shot on things that you get. However, if you're willing to put up for the risk of rolling to 50% with Fiery Dance, you can definitely roll with that as well. Overall, cool Volcarona. Like I said, support Volcarona. Nothing too insane there. Something that I was expecting to see. Clear Amulet Hands because the AV is on the Blood Moon. Now, that's a little bit of a weird tech. Like, if I was looking at this team, I would say, you know, AV is going to be on the hands and you're going to see like a Life Orb on the Blood Moon, right? But this is cool to see, right? Just kind of that item switch here. Now, you obviously lose a lot of damage output, but do you need it when you're beside Helping Hand, when you're beside a Miraidon, when you have Ally Switch as well, which is going to be what you're going to see a lot on these furry graphs, I believe, right? I'm not surprised to see Ally Switch here, right? Obviously, the Electric Seed seemingly catching on as well, right? And it's a pretty standardish team, right? If I were to look at this, you could probably adapt this pretty well to the North American meta. Maybe, like I said, maybe switch back to AV over here, you know, make a few minor tweaks. But overall, I think this team is very consistent despite being built for like the best of one, right? So like overall pretty consistent. Vacuum Wave onto AV Blood Moon is wild. I mean, sure, go for it. It's kind of cool, right? I mean, what fourth move are you going to put, right? What other fourth move are you going to put? So Hyper Voice, Earth Power, Blood Moon, and then you might as well have something for priority. So it makes a lot of sense, right? Team is very, very cool. Very similar. Very similar to the Indianapolis team, right? With the Miraidon and the Whimsicott and the, what's it called? The Electric Seed Giraffe, right? Obviously some other adaptations, right? The AV item switch from the hands over to the Blood Moon as well is very, very cool. But overall, very, very cool team. And I'm curious to see if this one actually does kind of sneak into the North American meta. All right, moving on to, I guess, the top 8 now. And the teams just don't get any less crazy, guys. Okay, like, if you weren't interested before, you got to be interested now. Like, what is going on here? That is Umbreon, Iron Jugulus, Lunala. Dozo? Anyways, we're going to go over here to this one here, which is another Calyrex. And once again, another Assault Vest Calyrex. That may just be the Japanese meta, right? It's Jolly Nature? Alright, so this one's faster than Calyrex and Tailwind. This one I can confirm. This one's going to be faster than Calyrex and Tailwind. So what they're going for here is they're going to go Torn Cali, they're going to go Tailwind, and they're going to prank every Calyrex shadow known to man with Crunch. Okay? Why is it Terra Grass Trailblaze? Guys, what is happening? Guys, why is it Terra Grass Trailblaze? Okay, the Tinglu is fairly normal. You know, it's a little bit weird with the lash out and the taunt, but overall, nothing too crazy there. Terra Poison's about what I expect. Citrus Berry because you don't have the AV because it's on your Cali. That's pretty normal. Specs Raging Bolt, so they just said we're going to send damage. Once again, another support Volcarona here. Nothing too crazy. They opted for the Overheat instead, opting for Tailwind as well. Like, different little variation of it, but still, for the most part, still that support Volcarona, probably looking to just do massive damage one time with an Overheat. I don't know what that necessarily is going to pick off in this regard, but I'm sure Overheat with its natural base power is probably picking off Amoonguss pretty consistently, and maybe some other nuisances to the team. Once again, Volcarona, incredible piece for the Zamazentas, and I really like it beside Calyrex Ice as well, since Cali Ice does lose to Zamazenta. Volcarona beside Cali Ice makes a lot of sense. Torn to enable that Tailwind, enable your team to go fast, and then you got your Bandit Urshifu and your Specs Raging Bolt. So basically, it's I'm going to go fast, and I'm going to pick which sweeper I want to use, right? And ideally, in the ideal scenario, you get to go fast, they remove the Torn, and then you get Calyrex and one of these two on the board, and you're just sending damage, and you're in a glorious position, right? But a really cool team here, once again, just leaning into that. Well, it looks like Trick Room, because it looks like I'm going to have Redirection, Trick Room. I'm going to have maybe a faster mode, but then I'm still going to play it slow and bulky. But then they're like, nope, we're just going to send Tailwind offense and go, right? And like I said, when I said earlier the teams are wild, this is what I was talking about. And this team is another, it's not letting me down, you know? Japan Nationals has not let me down. If you guys are looking for wild teams, here we go. Now, this is a team we've actually seen a little bit of in some of these online Limitless tours in the North American region as well, right? I know there's a couple prominent Australian players that I've seen running around with these teams as well, right? Just similar stuff, right? There's not a crazy amount to do here, right? This one's fairly, I hate to say it, but fairly basic. And Necrozma Dawnwings is wild. You've got Lilligant, Torkoal, Ursaluna, and you've got that Trick Room core. And you've got that Sun mode, you've got the Torkoal, the Lilligant, you've got the Indeedee, the Gallade, the Necrozma Dawnwings. And the Necrozma Dawnwings is a weird one, right? Because it really hasn't seen much play in the metagame. And it's interesting because Prism Armor with the ability to change out of 4 times weaknesses is actually a busted ability, right? So now in this case, they opted for water. And you are tearing out of any 4 times weakness, and any weakness that goes into water, which is just grass and electric, right? It's not doing a whole lot of damage to you anymore because there's really no electric type. I mean, Miraidon and Raging Bolt, but outside of those 2 big ones, there really isn't any grass types. I mean, you've got Rillaboom, but you can change terrain on Rillaboom. You've got a Torkoal. They don't really want to be bringing Rillaboom into this. And if there are electric types, you've got an Ursaluna as well. A lot going on. We've seen spam teams like this in the past. In the past, like Necrozma would have just been an Armarouge, and this is pretty much a standard team, right? So I don't think there's anything too wild here. Just a pretty consistent, hard Trick Room team that definitely gets a lot of players in best of 1, right? I think, you know, you get the lead wrong game 1, it's just over because there only is a game 1. Right, so really strong team, really cool team. I don't know how it fares in like best of 3, but obviously if you have lines and stuff and you're a hard Trick Room player, this is a cool team. Not against it. Let's go to the Lunala Umbreon now. Now, Lunala, Urshifu, Rillaboom, Iron Jugulis, TU, Umbreon. Now, a lot of this is actually pretty standard. You know, I like Calm Mind Lunala. I don't like sending Meteor Beams on Lunala. I think Meteor Beam on Lunala right now as my only restricted is a little bit problematic. If Lunala was no longer my only restricted, I feel like you can afford to say, well, my restricted missed its Meteor Beam because I have another restricted still. It's not the end of the world. When it's my only restricted, I really like seeing Calm Mind here. I think it's a really smart tech. And maybe can you just become a fairy type, right? You become a fairy type. You don't care about instant. You don't need to remove it from the field anymore, right? So you don't care about it. You can get to set up and you can get to go leftovers. And if you can just heal yourself back up the Shadow Shield between grassy terrain, between leftovers, right? eventually you're going to heal yourself back up the Shadow Shield, and you're going to get that 50% reduction again, right? And it's really, really strong. I think Calm Mind Lunala has potential. The problem with Calm Mind Lunala is that rise now in Calyrex Shadow that's coming back around, right? But I think overall fairly standard, you know, pretty standard setup. Lunala, nothing too crazy there. Urshifu, Focus Sash, nothing we haven't seen before. Same with the Rillaboom. Pretty standard, got the Assault Vest. Pretty much standard all around up there, right? Iron Jugulis we've seen a little bit. It had a good showing in Indianapolis on that Kyogre team. And you don't really see it too much now. But this one, in this scenario, looks like with Snarl and Terra Ground, it looks like it's really equipped to just try to be that answer versus Miraidon. And as well as Koraidon as well, right? It looks like it's built to beat both of the bikes, right? I can now set Rain Dance to boost my Urshifu. I can also set Rain Dance to hinder off the Koraidon's boost, right? You know, you get the Rain Dance up, Koraidon no longer has that sound. It's doing a lot less damage, right? And you can take advantage of that way. I like that a lot. And of course, this Tailwind to support the rest of your team. I think this team is really, really cool. Scarf to you to help deal with the Shadow. Sorry guys, my brain for some reason doesn't want to work today. But overall, really cool. Nothing we haven't seen. The Will-O-Wisp on the Scarf to you is a little cool, but in a format where there's a lot of physical attackers and a lot of them can't really be intimidated, and obviously this team doesn't have Intimidate, being able to just drop that Will-O-Wisp immediately, and especially in Close Sheets Best of 1, if no one is expecting Choice Scarf or Will-O-Wisp from a TU, you can get a lot of people like that, and I think it's really, really strong. And TU is known to miss its moves, so why not have one of the moves that's just known to miss? What I don't like here on this TU is the fact that there is 0 100% accurate moves. There is 0 100% accurate moves, so like, no matter what I do, if there is a Pokemon on 1 HP, I do not have a consistent endgame, and that's terrifying. However, I mean, Will-O-Wisp is a cool tech, definitely wanted to touch upon it. And then Umbreon, which we've seen get some usage as of late. Reflect is very cool. I don't think I ever was going to expect the Reflect. Taunt we've seen. Foul Play we've seen. Okay. Terra Poison Toxic is kind of funny. And I'll tell you why in a second. But anyways, Reflect is cool. Normally you see like a Snarl. You'd rather see like the special mitigation. But Reflect is very cool since you have the Snarl on the Jugulis. Right, so now basically if they're a big special team, you slow them down that way. If they're a big physical team, you slow them down with the Umbreon and the Will-O-Wisp. Right, so it's a very cool tech. And the Terra Poison, probably just the correct Terra for Umbreon. And Terra Poison Toxic, I'm going to go ahead and say is probably for something if they were expecting maybe like a minimized strategy, like a Muck Smeargle or anything of the like, they would be able to get the poison off. Guaranteed. Because Poison type Toxic cannot miss. It will always connect. Right, so having that tech maybe is something for that. Obviously, it's probably just good overall into a team that's built to just reduce damage, right? We're built to reduce damage here, right? We've got Snarl to reduce damage. We've got Reflect to reduce damage. We've got Will-O-Wisp to reduce damage. So Toxic as a whole is probably pretty strong in general. But then you also have that Terra Poison Toxic where it's just 100% accurate. Not being able to miss that Toxic is incredible. And I think that's a pretty strong tech that I definitely wanted to talk about. But overall, I'd say relatively standard top 3 here, and then they just kind of went crazy with the bottom 3, and I mean, it works. The support clearly worked. They did very well in the tournament. So, Miraidon Dozo. Do we really want to talk about Miraidon Dozo? Is this the new 222, guys? Is this the new 222? Because this is wild. Okay, we've got Dondozo, pretty standard. I think a lot of this is actually standard. I think what I don't like about it is the fact that it's 222, but a lot of it overall is pretty standard, you know? Tatsugiri, Dondozo, Chiyu, Fluttermane, that's your 222 core. There's nothing new here, you know? It's really nothing new. Sleep Talk is kind of cool. Terra Normal's probably for that late game Calyrex, since you don't outpace Calyrex with Tatsugiri, even with a Choice Scarf. Being able to Terra Normal out of potentially an Astro Barrage is pretty strong there. I do like that Terra. Overall, I mean, there's not much else to say. What I like a lot about Miraidon Dozo, because a lot of people were trying this by dropping the Fluttermane and putting Calyrex there. But I think dropping the Glamora or dropping whatever the slot, like dropping the Shenpao for the Miraidon is actually very strong. Because you get to do a lot of cool things, because now you keep your Fluttermane TU mode, but you also get a Miraidon, which as we all know is a delete button. Assault Vest is insane, obviously. It's a pretty strong item regardless, right? But we're so used to choice specs, so having the Assault Vest. And what I like about this is you're able to Volt Switch out. So you can do a lot of cool things with Volt Switch and Dondozo Tatsugiri, right? You can do tons with that. If you have Tatsugiri and Miraidon on the board, you switch out to Tatsugiri into Dondozo, you Volt Switch, kill something, bring Dondozo in, bring the Tatsugiri back in. Now the Dozo eats the Tatsugiri, and you're set up on that side, which where normally without that you'd be if you had Tatsugiri on, the Dozo would have to come on the other side. But because you have Volt Switch, you're able to do a lot of cool things and cycle around to get to the proper Dozo positioning that you'd want. And I think it's a really, really cool tech on teams like this. And then because you're Assault Vest and you're not locked into things, you're able to go ahead and protect the Dondozo for a turn. Maybe get an Electro Drift or a Dazzling Gleam off. And then next turn, you can go for the Volt Switch into the Tatsugiri and set up your Dozo. Right? If you are Specs, right, you can't really make that play as freely. You know, you'd have to lock into it pretty early on. It's not like you'd be able to protect Dozo. I guess what you could do is protect Dozo side Volt Switch for whatever reason. If you wanted to do that, then switch on out the next turn. But I think the Assault Vest gives you that freedom to make those Volt Switch plays around. And you also had two choice items already, right? You've got the Choice Band Dragonite. You've got the Choice Scarf Tatsugiri. Having Choice Specs would be very, very restricting in building. But I do like the Assault Vest change. Like I said, the freedom of Volt Switch to set up your Dozo, in my opinion, and the revolving door there is really, really strong. It's weird to see the Dragonite without Shenpao. I'm going to be a little honest. Like, I feel like you drop the Dragonite in this scenario as well normally. But overall, I guess it's still pretty strong. Ice Spinner, Iron Head, Extreme Speed, Outrage. Multi-scale instead of Inner Focus. Like I said, in Best of 1, maybe Incineroar usage was down. Maybe it's not as prominent in Japan. So you're going to go ahead and say, you know what? I don't need to have Inner Focus. I'm not too worried about Fake Out or Intimidate. I can go ahead and be multi-scale on this type of team. And realistically, am I going to want to bring Incineroar versus a Dozo? Probably. But there's not that many Incineroars out there, and I can just cycle around, right? Like, if they have an Incineroar, maybe I just don't bring the Dragonite. You know, either way, really, really cool team. Assault Vest is wild on Miraidon. Not too crazy, but I like what they were going for. Okay, we'll take a quick look at some of the top 9 teams. I don't want this video to go... Actually, I can't even look at the top 9 teams. So we'll definitely just take a quick overview then of what's going on here, because I don't even have their OTSs. So, I guess, yeah, they never would have been released, right? Because only the teams that made top 8 we'd have OTSs for. Yeah, so we'll take a quick scroll through. Some more Calyrex stuff. 3 straight Cali Eyes and then a Cali Shadow. So, like, nothing crazy. That's an Iron Crown. Okay, I was going to say, is that a Cobalion? But no, it is indeed an Iron Crown. And Iron Crown is there. It's chilling. Ditto on Calyrex is wild. These two teams here are pretty standardish, right? I mean, the Ditto is wild. But overall, I think this is what you'd expect from a Calyrex Ice team. You know, that's what you'd expect, right? Moving on, you've got a little bit more rain-oriented mode. And, you know, it's still pretty strong. I mean, nothing too crazy here. Another Kyogre. This one looks like a pretty standard. I'm going to send Tailwind and Water Spout. Now, granted, a lot of these could have hidden text as well, guys. I don't know. I'm just kind of scrolling through these as quickly as possible. Don't know what's going on here. That could be Banded D-Knight. It may not be. It may be Support Tailwind D-Knight. I would imagine it's just Banded, though. Maybe it's Banded Earthquake. I could see that, actually. One of Lando or Dragonite being Banded EQ. I could see Banded EQ on the D-Knight and like a Scarf EQ on the Lando. And then you pair that beside Tornadus and you just can Earthquake freely pretty much. I could definitely see something like that out of there. Right now, guys, I'm just kind of speculating just to kind of go through these like top-ish teams here. Real quick, Miraidon stuff, nothing too crazy there, just kind of what we've seen a little bit, but with like a Chi-Yu and Torn a little bit more aggressive. Another Iron Valiant Calyrex with a Thunderous this time, that's kind of wild. Some more Calyrex. Cali-Eye Rock Pond is actually something that's very interesting, and I wonder if this is a Trick Room mode, or if it's similar to the one up here, right, that was also just focused on Tailwind and didn't actually have Trick Room. So I wonder if it's similar or if it actually is a Tailwind mode. But I think overall, guys, I mean, I could scroll through these last ones a little bit. I'm going to leave them here. Why is there a Sneasler beside a Miraidon? Why is there a Roaring Moon Groudon? There's a lot to be said here. Okay, Iron Treads Miraidon is very, 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 very cool. I think it's incredibly strong overall as well. It's very cool for the mirror. Treads appreciates having an ability. Who would have thought? Same with Iron Hands, right? It's these Pokemon that didn't have abilities before because electric terrain was so bad now get access to abilities, and it's wild, right? It's like in that Italian special event that just happened as well. You had the Iron Leaves beside the Miraidon that day too, right? That's wild. You know, you don't see that, but because these Pokemon now have abilities that actually function because you have electric terrain, right? You actually get to utilize these Pokemon. And Treads has never been a bad Pokemon. It just didn't have that ability without Boost Energy. So now you don't necessarily need Boost Energy. I'm not sure if this one had it or not, but you don't necessarily need it, and you can utilize the Miraidon to give you that item plus an ability, and that's actually really, really strong for some of these Pokemon. But overall, we've got Terracotta, which is insane, right? Just some really cool things, but I'm going to hold off on that, guys. Once again, I'll leave this down below for you guys if you guys are interested in checking it out. And overall, guys, just insanely wild teams. I built this as more of a, you know, a reaction video as opposed to like a full-on scripted video. So hopefully you guys kind of enjoyed that instead, kind of a little bit of change of pace, right? Just kind of wanted to go along and look at these teams with you, because I was looking at them anyways, right? So looking at them, kind of reacting along with you guys is what I wanted to do with this one. So hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you guys do enjoy the type of content, please feel free to leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel. And of course, with that, I'm going to get on out of here. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you all in a future video.